You are listening to the Growing Small Town Show, a podcast dedicated to supporting you, the person who really cares about the future of your small town. We believe when people get better, everything gets better, and our episodes offer the ideas and actions that prioritize people and small communities. Thank you for listening. We're so glad you're here. Our guest on today's episode is Brodie Mueller. He's back. And Brodie is the founder and current owner of the Market on the Plaza in Aberdeen, South Dakota. They are a sandwich, beer, and coffee shop. And I invited him back to really discuss an offhanded comment he had made in a previous episode about how when he's hiring for his store, he conducts a quote-unquote vibe check. And I just think it's so fun to meet somebody like Brodie that has a true innate quality about how to select people that are right for his organization. But then just saying like, okay, how do we actually identify? What are the markers of that innate knowing for those of us that maybe don't operate with such a gut reaction to humans? He's running this organization. Some of the things we talk about are truly researched principles of engagement. You know, how do we get people to love our business as much as we do? I'm going to tell you right now, that's actually really hard and maybe isn't exactly the target. It's yours, right? You might never hire people that love it as much as you do. It is possible to get people that feel empowered, feel a sense of ownership, and genuinely love the place where they work. And big picture here at Growing Small Towns, we think that's one of the fastest ways to shape culture in a community is help the employers create cultures that are unforgettable for their employees. So enjoy this episode with our friend Brodie Mueller. Hey, Brodie.
What's going on?
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
People better get used to your big, beautiful voice.
This sounds so silky smooth in here. I like it.
It is so silky smooth.
Brand new machine. Tell us all about it.
I'm actually going to leave that to you because you're the one that understands it. All I know is it is a beaut.
It is
Clark.
a beaut. I have the previous version of this, so I am a little.
Does it make you sad?
I'm a little jelly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me sad. It makes me so excited for you. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy it, even though I really want to, because the older version works great. But so for those interested, it's called the Rodecaster Pro 2 is what she has. I have the Rodecaster Pro 1. You could probably find it for cheaper on eBay now if they have this one, but it's super user friendly, lots of lights, the screen is great.
And there's incredible sound effects. I feel like we should just randomly insert some for them. Yeah, we should let them have it.
Oh.
Yeah, get your groove on.
Some baby making music right here.
It is. And it was so funny because my kid was in here. I mean, listen, right? Isn't that great? And then there's a couple other ones that my son was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah. So we were giggling. Yeah, the record scratch. Hit the upper, the air horn.
Yes.
I know, it's so funny. I literally, if I ever bring my middle son, who you just met a few minutes ago, if I ever bring him in here to record, I will literally just say, whenever you feel like you need you just hit a button. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fine.
Drop the beat. That is too fun.
Isn't it hilarious?
I know. Turn that off. I'm going to play with it the whole
I know.
time.
We giggled and giggled and giggled. So yeah, it's been pretty great, and it's super fun. So just to also like round out the context, we're in Oaks, North Dakota, right? In a dedicated room where we've now set it up as a podcast studio, and it feels like it's leveling us up a bit, which is really special. It's like this whole time the podcast has been my favorite way to connect with people, and some of my favorite. I actually have met. I shouldn't say met air quotes, right? Virtually have met people that they've reached out and said, "Oh my God, I love this, and this is what we're doing." And then you get that cool feedback from people all over the country. It's just it's been the coolest way to kind of spread different ideas, spread ways of doing things in rural communities all around the world.
Well, and good job sticking with it. It's been 4 years, right?
4 full years, yeah.
And so that's huge. Most people don't make it past like 6 episodes. So
I know,
you're doing great.
It's a real thing, but I think it really does come down to like, I have an insatiable curiosity. I really do. And when I get to talk to people, especially if people are, and by the way, like as we're talking about this, people should know, like, if you know somebody that you really think they should be on the show, send us a note. I mean, that's what we do. That is totally what we do. But I just love to talk to people that are doing things you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
In a small town. It's just the coolest thing.
And podcasting is really, it makes the world very small, right? And
it does.
And it's all easy to connect with each other now. So yeah, we'd love to hear your story.
I know. Well, and again, for those that maybe aren't remembering or they'll listen to it at some point in this episode, you're producing our show.
I am.
And so thankful for that. And I think it's really cool to be able to say that it's locally recorded and produced.
Absolutely.
You know, right here. So, okay. I'm super excited to talk to you about something that you casually mentioned in a previous episode. And again, kind of in light of this direction that we're moving in programmatically, which I think is also, I'm really open to kind of talking about how the sausage is made, so to speak, like, because that's the thing people really want to know is how are you making this work or how are you doing this, right? And so being very honest about the fact that just because we started out in a certain direction and economic development was such a big part of it for a number of years, and to then say, actually, we're pivoting away from that specific work, coming alongside the industry, all the things, right? I think in light of that direction, that move kind of towards org development for small towns, which I just think is so important, the casual thing you dropped in this other episode was that your way of attracting and hiring people for the market is a vibe check. And so yes, folks, you're going to get so much air horn.
Dropped it like it's hot. Yes.
I think that's super important. I do. I mean, I think it's super important to articulate a bit more about what that means, because I've got some core beliefs about these things. I'm going to share just a couple of them right now, and this will tee us up. Okay. Choosing where to work. It's actually a very big decision. And local employers like yourself, how many people do you have working for you now?
I have 10, one on maternity leave. 10 is
a big number of staff. And so one of the core beliefs that I have is that local employers, when they do a great job of actually being a great place to work, because being a great place to work isn't just about the tasks themselves. It's about the vibe.
Right.
It's about, do I feel like I'm treated like a human? Am I treated with respect? Are my unique makeup, is it noted and is it given an avenue to shine, right? These are studied things. These aren't just my core beliefs, but I get really jacked up about this because it's something, especially small employers like yourself and small towns. These are things that we can implement tomorrow, should we want to. And my second part of this premise is that those 10 people, because they work with you and they feel all of those things, they're making the community better. Like the fastest way for us to actually change the culture of a town is to up-level the culture of our workforce. And that's in every single business.
Yeah.
Right? And it's also something you can change.
Right.
Because I think sometimes people want to talk about communities like, we're all on the same page with vision. And I'm like, how?
Right.
How are you doing that? Because like what I need to feel good in my community might be different from what you need. And yet somehow like the city leaders are expected to serve all of us. It's actually a daunting task. So when I've thought about this and I've experienced it, right? Like being in economic development, feeling like, oh my God, I can't serve everybody. And my energy is finite, right? And my passion, like I want to direct it where it wants to go instead of being like, but you wear that hat, therefore everybody's needs matter. It was just like totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of back in where I feel like not only we're equipped to help, But I get to talk to people like you that have an innate sense about this. And my goal is like, how do we help people that don't have the innate sense? Like, what are some of the things we can talk through? Like the practical things we can talk to that create a vibe check, right? I think it's funny, right? People like me are like, oh, vibe check, I get it. And then there's like analytical people that are running businesses that are like, what does that mean? So that's a huge tee up, but I felt it was important.
So I'll preface this by saying like, okay, so obviously there are hard and soft skills, right? So if you are running a software company, you need somebody who can code. Like first and foremost, top of the list, they have to be able to do the job.
Right.
However, there are thousands of jobs out there that are, we call them entry level or whatever, or they're primarily customer service based, right? And we need those people. So that when I look for people to hire, I don't have and I'm very bad at procedures and standard operating procedures and SOPs and all of that. So I'm trying to be better. However, when it comes to hiring, I feel pretty okay with my process, which is largely a conversation, because I can teach any monkey to pull a shot of espresso. That's not difficult. Everyone can make a sandwich. The cooking that we're doing there is not Michelin star game-changing stuff.
It is quite delicious, though.
It is delicious. Thank you, but it's not complicated. It's not complicated.
Yep.
What I care more about is that you are furthering the mission of the place with your attitude and with your customer service.
Okay, so can we stop there for a quick question? So you actually have a stated mission?
No.
Okay, so say more about that.
Okay, yeah. So this is something I'm trying to solidify this year, right?
Okay,
so when it comes to company culture, the best way I've heard it expressed is, people, we work at the market, and therefore we do things this way.
Yeah,
I've hired people over the years who have worked at other coffee shops, and I appreciate their input. But here at the market, this is how we're going to do it.
Yep.
And it creates ideally it creates a sense of identity, right? And we do this with our kids too. We're Muellers, so we are hospitable, and we are generous, and we are good hosts, and all this thing. And the kids start to instill that. So I'm trying to do that. So no, I don't. I have a mission statement that I kind of roll around with, and I have my why and things like that. I don't do a really good job of expressing that to my employees quite yet.
Okay, but I think you're on the right path.
Right, yeah.
Because like what you're talking about, it isn't even just a mission, it's also values.
Right.
So have you created a set of stated values? Because I just want to repeat back to you, reflect back to you.
Yeah.
For you to say, we're Muellers, as in your family, therefore we are hospitable, we are, that's all company values are.
Right.
And I think, and I'm so passionate about values. And again, I can geek out all day long talking about how important they are. Where they're not important and ineffective is when, somebody at the top of your company, even if it's the owner, is like, let's create company values. And then they go out to Google and they're like, what are good values for a coffee and sandwich shop, right? AI, Google, you can find those answers.
Yep.
And the ones that are going to matter are the ones that are true for you.
Yep.
And that you say, this is what matters. And you get to do that. And that's the other thing with small businesses. I want to be like, you get to. You get to say, this is how we do things around here, which is exactly how I define culture, by the way. Just to distill it right down. And also just to remind people that in the absence of a definition, a culture still gets created.
Yeah.
And the default cultures are almost always the dysfunctional ones.
Absolutely.
So I love this. And I love that that's something I want to help you do that. Let's have a little sit down chat and we'll create those things.
I guess part of the things that I've discovered by accident, or values I've discovered by accident, kind of, I know what I'm doing for the most part, but I guess I didn't set out to do it this way. But I have instilled in my staff that I am not the end all be all. I'm not the decision maker necessarily.
And I'm not the person with all the answers.
So all of the drink features that we do, I don't come up with those.
Yeah.
I have set them free to go and do that. I regularly will say, okay, tell me no, but what about this? And I'll throw a crazy idea out. And if it's most of the time it's met with, I don't know. And so we workshop it a little bit. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Because I don't want to force what I think is a great idea onto the rest of my staff who have to work there. So if this is a collaborative environment, everyone has more fun. And plus, I don't like being I don't want to have to make all the decisions. No one likes to do that. The decision fatigue, and then you have to figure out what the hell's for dinner. And like, no, I don't need to make any more decisions in my life. So if these are competent people, I can just let them do that. Now, I understand that delegation is not a skill that some people are comfortable with, but it's made a huge difference for me because what that gives the employee then is some ownership too.
100%.
And they know that they're in charge of this, and they know that I trust them to go and do it. So just do it, and that's how we're all going to go forward.
I love that. So the value statement that I'm hearing in that is like all ideas are worthy of exploring.
Oh yeah.
That's what I hear, and I think that does that attracts a very specific kind of human, at least in terms of who's going to stay and who's going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is you're touching on a core need for people in terms of engagement. And this, again, is researched. People could look it up. But that sense of ownership and that sense of empowerment. Yeah. Like I feel actually trusted to do my job. Basically, It's the antithesis of micromanagement, right? And so what's interesting is there are people that want to make every decision.
Yep.
Right? And like massive control freaks, which I can absolutely agree that when it comes to certain things, I have a really hard time letting go. Right? But we just have to look at it and be honest about it and say, how are we? How are we letting our employees show up? How much of themselves get to be at play here? Right? And I think that's really cool. Plus, I was there one time at the market, and one of your employees, and again, I didn't even know her name, didn't look at her name tag, and I just said, well, what would you?
Cute that you think she has a name tag.
Oh, did she? Okay, so yeah, I wasn't missing anything. But I was like, okay, well, what would you recommend? And she's like, well, this one's mine. That's what she said. Like, well, this is the one that she's like, I came up with this one. And I was like, well, serve it to me then. Yeah. Like, yeah, heck yeah. And so that's cool. And I felt it, right? I felt that, like, of course I want to make you the thing that I suggested we have on our board, which is a really cool way to engage people.
The fun thing about coffee is it's endless, right?
Yeah.
And so all the different combinations and techniques and things.
Oh my gosh,
and
right.
The
syrups and the milks.
Yeah.
And
well, we just had one of my employees, I've told them, like, just do social media, okay? Like, you don't need to run everything by me. I trust you. I trust you. You know the voice of this place, and you know the modern era that we're in. So just go make some cute videos. Like, we need to do something other than sell on our Facebook page.
Right. Yeah.
And so they created, they did a video, like a TikTok or a reel style video of holding our coffee drinks like men hold fish in dating profiles.
That's fantastic.
It was great.
I got to go check that out. That's
hilarious.
hilarious.
They did another one, and the format is you go into any retail establishment, and the person who's getting the customer, says, hey, enjoy the rest of your shift. And then the worker goes, yeah, you too. And he goes, wait a minute. Me too? And then it's a series of pictures of this customer who happened to be my brother come back behind the thing, and he's making a drink and he's doing all this stuff, and it was really cute, and it's just it makes you smile, and it's fun. But the point is, I gave them the leeway to go and do that. Right. And so I don't need to. I forgot where I was going with this, but
so let me ask you this: how do you determine if you can give them that much leeway? Like, is there something you're looking for in the interview specifically, or is there, because again...
No, so in the interview, I'm looking for, can you hold a conversation? Do I enjoy talking to you?
Yeah.
Even the kids...
What a gooey,
I know.
nebulous way of doing it, which I am here for.
Because I can teach your kid to pull a shot of espresso. I've taught my kid to pull it. It's not difficult. It's do this, and press a button. It's not that difficult. Any idiot can do coffee.
Yeah.
But I want them to be able to look the customer in the eye, say hello, do a little joke, have it be a fun interaction, and be on your way. One of the things I wanted to touch on, especially when it comes to decision fatigue, is you have to set the tone. You're the driver, right? As the owner. What I tell my employees after they've been there for a bit too is, I can't carry that all the time.
Yeah.
I can't carry the weight of all this. I can't drive the bus today, the positivity bus. And so I have found some other people who can. And I'm just upfront with them. This is not a great day for me. I'm going to need some help.
Right.
Or we have a big event today. I'm not super stoked about it. I'm tired. I'm grumpy. I don't really want to do it, but I can feed off your energy. So around that, we call it setting the tone. We're going to set the tone for the day, and sometimes I need help doing that. And so it's not a heavy lift for my employees. It's smiling. It's making a joke. They know who I am. They know I'm not going to yell at them.
Right.
And so just having that safe space that I, as the big owner, I'm asking this 16-year-old to help me set the tone for the day. And that's she has created that as part of her identity now, which is really cool.
That.
But I saw it in the interview, right?
Sure.
I saw that she has this positivity, this bubbly, she's ready to jump in and do things. So I don't need to call references. If you're shitty, I'll just fire you. Like references are just your handpicked people who will say, oh yes, they're the greatest.
Yeah, it's kind of a pointless piece of the whole process.
So I don't even have an application, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
I don't, because
oh my God, you're gonna have so many people that are like, how do I work for that guy?
what do I need an application for? So if you want to work here, come and talk to me. If I have an opening and I need somebody, then let's sit down. If I don't like the vibe after sitting down, or if your availability doesn't work, then we just move on to the next. But I don't need to file more paperwork. Where the hell am I going to put it? And for what? So if you get hired,
where am I going to put it?
If you get hired, all your paperwork is online in the app that we use, and then it's all good. So I don't know. Maybe I'm much more of a pirate than makes people comfortable.
Well, I think, listen, yes, that's true. Let's just call it what it is. Yes, you have an approach that would really be difficult, probably, and again, depending on the nature of the business, depending on who's listening. What I am interested in though is like you've had good success, like not only hiring but retaining, and they're young.
Yeah,
they're young staff, and they're showing up for you in a really clear way. And literally, my whole point of this is like, okay, well, there's something that you're doing that's attracting this young generation when everybody else is saying that they're lazy and don't want to work.
And we have our fair share of that, don't get me wrong. And I have to scale the 24-year-olds back, the hungry thoroughbreds who are like, well, this girl, she's not doing what she's supposed to, or the pop was in stock. And I'm like, okay, is it the end of the world though?
Yeah.
Like, did you die? Like, we all forget
stuff. Is that
stuff.
the basic, like, response to all employee complaints?
No,
did you die? Did you die?
I mean, so
you're coming at them with, like, straight Gen X vibes.
Right.
Like,
pull yourself up by your bootstraps, girl.
Stop your bitching.
Yeah, so, no, I employee complaints come, I say, okay, we'll deal with that. And then I send a text message of, hey, I don't know if things got busy last night or what, but just a reminder, like, hey, we need eggs for the morning. It's, that's a time consuming thing. If you could just, look at things the night before and see. And then she was able to text back and say, well, Emily said that she would cut ham and she had some other excuse for that. Well, okay. Then I don't need to dog you about it. Like,
right.
The thing that I said from the beginning is we're all adults here. Okay.
Yeah,
Even you 16-year-olds, we're all adults. So the schedule is a guideline. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm not going to make you, like, what the hell kind of way to run or to manage people of this is your shift and you have to be here for it. And if you're not, then you're written up and you're like, no, either you're going to be an adult and show up to work when you say that you can, within parameters, like give me what your schedule is. And then that's when I know what to expect. A request off is just a threat that they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
So why do we need to keep, I don't know. I just don't believe in all that. So I have things going on in my life. I can't be there all the time. So if you can't either, then okay, give us your availability and we'll fill in the rest.
Yeah.
That's and make it work. I don't feel like that's a heavy lift or a big deal, but it does seem kind of novel to these kids who are like, okay, well, what do I do with like absence requests? I don't put it in the app and then we'll know and everything gets approved. And then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and we'll only have a big problem if like everybody wants the exact same time frame off.
And there has been that.
That happens, I'm sure.
And then you just say, hey, really sorry. I know people have stuff going on. Is there any way anybody can give me a little bit of time? Mm-hmm. And I'm the first one to jump in and work
you
those things.
So have you ever had a situation where you really were like, I don't know how to handle this with your staff specifically?
Kind of. I had a guy work for us, and he was there. He helped to start it, and he helped to run the kitchen, but his home life was not great.
That's tough.
And it bleeds over, and he would talk to other employees about all of his problems. And we'd say, hey, really seems like you should go talk to somebody. Really seems like you should get some counseling. Really seems like you should do X, Y, and Z, because it's just not as much as we talk about setting the tone and all that. You kind of have to leave that stuff. Work is work and home is home.
Yeah, but it doesn't ever mentally, emotionally, people don't do that.
No.
Right, and we know that. And you're not suggesting that they can, but
right.
there is we need you to be on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was a multiple. He had the ability to bring the energy down in the room quite a bit. And my old business partner had the same. She could do that as well. And it's like, I need people who can do the opposite. I need you to be able to bring the whole room up. So he's on the verge of divorce, thinks sleeping on somebody's couch. And after 2 no-shows, I fired him. And
how did that sit for you?
It sucked. I think for the 2 weeks that I contemplated it sucked. And then I ran across a Gary Vee clip where he's like, I promise you, if you fire your top performer, who is a pain in the ass for all the other boys and girls, they will thank you for it. And your business will be better for it. And that was a big, because I'm like, well, he's running the kitchen. How can I fire? Well, because it's just a sandwich kitchen. It's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
And so it sent a message to the rest of the staff, though, too, that I'm not going to tolerate that, and I'm going to protect you from it, too. Like, I had just been through a business breakup. I didn't, I wanted to make it clear that, okay, no, we're not going to do this anymore.
I think that that general reminder that you're even, because I have such a problem, truly, just at my core, with high performers that are just complete assholes getting to hang out. Again, and that's maybe certain cultures that's what they want to create.
Yep.
It is not a culture that I want to work in. No. And I think most people don't.
Right. Because
you shouldn't be able to alienate 80%. I don't care if you produce 80% of the profit. Really, big picture, and we take it to this extra level of what kind of humans is that creating for the community that you're operating your business in?
Would you rather lose one person, or would you rather lose your whole team because they don't want to work with the one problem person?
Exactly. And if that person is a problem person at work, how would we not assume they're kind of like that in their day-to-day life?
Yeah.
And then that's also a perception thing of your business.
Oh, that's absolutely true. There are places I don't go because I know who works there.
Thank you for just saying that and owning that. And that, again, is, I don't want to say these things and bring these things up like well, shame on you and you should do better, but more like if you aren't thinking about this, please think about it.
Somebody who's listening goes, shit, I do need to fire that person.
Right. And, just, it's scary. I also, I'll come up against, clients or whatever that I'm working with, and we're talking about, they'll say, there'll be a perpetual thing that this person just either doesn't do. And we'll talk about just having a conversation with them. And they literally are like, well, I don't want to upset them. And I constantly just say, I do not want any businesses to be held over a barrel by their employees.
Yeah.
I get that we are in a tight labor market. I understand that. And this is why I really want people to spend a little more time thinking about, well, who are we? Mm-hmm. What is the vibe of our business? How do we treat people? How do we want people to treat each other?
Yep.
I actually, you were talking about this right at the start, so if anybody's listening to this and you've got really strong job descriptions, which it sounds like you maybe don't, and that's okay, sir. You can just put it on the list to develop, right? It's fine.
HR's working on that right now.
Right. I'm
as
sure.
As soon as I make an HR department,
the whole HR team is hustling as you're here. And
spare no expense.
Yeah, right. So the companies that are like, no, we have really good job descriptions. Great. That lays out the what you expect people to do. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's actually pretty easy to have conversations when those metrics or those bars aren't being met, right? Yeah. It's like you're not doing what you said you would do. Mm-hmm. And that's it. what trips everybody up from a leadership perspective and a human resources perspective is the values conversation, which is the how we do the things around here. So I always like positions is like two sides of an employment contract.
Right.
And when you are clear about what kind of vibe, when you can get clear about that, they become a set of shared agreements.
Yeah.
That when shit goes sideways, and it does because people are people, you can anchor down. I always call them an anchor. They serve you as the owner or the leader because you can come back to it and say kind of like, hey, remember when we talked about this, and remember that like every single time we get together, every single time we do this, we say these things. This is what I'm seeing, and this is why it's not okay.
Yeah.
Because without those guardrails of like the behavior stuff, it's subjective at best.
Yeah.
And a personal slam at worst.
Right.
And there's some spectrum there. Well, because people don't, it's not super common for people to take constructive feedback very well.
Right.
It's a hard skill. Like that's a skill to be developed too, right? So anyway, I think it's super important.
I use a lot of humor in everything I do, but I don't enjoy confrontation, all that. So when I've had to have those conversations though, I mean, if you're sitting down and having it, that's one thing. But if somebody forgot to lock the door or, whatever, there's some big thing, but it's not it's not minor. But anyway, what I've done is, Jonas, you forgot. I'll text everyone. I'll put it on the company thread or whatever. Jonas forgot to do this. That's minus 10 points from House Jonas. And that kid, he was 16, but he would come back and be like, hey, can I get those like 10 points back? It's all imaginary. It doesn't mean anything. There's no scoreboard.
No, I think that is so freaking brilliant. And it's also, Brodie, like this is why I wanted to talk to you about this, because you casually mentioned, you're like, it's just a vibe check. And I'm like, oh, I get that. But I'm like, other people are like, what's a vibe check? Like, can someone fill me in on how do I do a vibe check? There's an innateness with you for this, which is awesome. But you're also like, for people that aren't as innate at it, think about how could you position it in a way that also gets to their level. Because House Jonas is super funny, and I love it. And you again that like lighthearted way. It doesn't mean that you're not addressing it.
Right.
The biggest problem is just when we just don't. We're like, well, we don't want to piss them off, so we won't say anything. And I think it's your business or it's your department if you're a leader in it, right?
The agreement when you go to work is that you will do a set of skills that have been laid out, or a set of tasks that have been laid out for you, and in return, I will give you money.
Exactly.
That's what I've taken to. I guess I take comfort in that, because you don't want to be the mean boss, and you don't want to yell. Well, fine, don't yell. But the agreement of walking in this door and clocking in is that I need you to do X, Y, and Z. If that's not in your purview, then that's okay. You can just find some other place to work. But if you think that you can do this, and if you can do it with a smile on your face and be friendly to the people that you work with and to the customers, then we're golden. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I want to remind everybody listening to this, like if you don't have your values somewhat shaped out, take a couple minutes and shape them out. Like you literally just hit on a few things. Like smile. There's a friendliness that you expect of your people. Yeah. Now, again, I'm just gonna. People might be like, well, yeah. I mean, it's a coffee shop. Of course, they have to be friendly. I don't think a lot of people are hiring people. I don't think a lot of businesses are taking the time to actually identify that friendliness matters. And what friendliness means is this.
Because we all need the warm bodies,
Of course, I know.
And that's why that vibe check is. Can I see who you are as a person? Can I see kind of how you work? Because again, those are the hard skills that I can't teach.
That's right.
You can over time, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you're not taking that on.
I'd rather take a week and teach you how to make lattes and sandwiches and have you go and do that and not have to worry about what you're going to say to customers.
Totally.
That's what I mean with the vibe check. Do you fit the culture? Could we share a plate of nachos and have a good time? And do I think that you can do these skills? If all of those are yes, then let's go. And if I turn out to be wrong or you turn out to be a liar, then hire fast, fire fast.
Right.
I'm not writing any books on it. And I've only had to fire 2 people.
Yeah. So That's a pretty solid track record because you've been open for how many years?
3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna
almost 4.
Yeah, that's That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I just think like we spend a lot of time thinking about the nuts and bolts of the job, and the how people do it really matters. Because otherwise what happens, and I don't know if you've experienced this working for other people maybe in your previous life, but it's like you end up, if you're the boss, you end up kind of like low-key being annoyed all the time because people are behaving in a way that just kind of bothers you, but you're like, well, I can't really say anything. I'm just bothered. And I'm like, if you own the place, you're bothered, you say something.
Yep.
But it's also not fair to hold them to a standard that you've never articulated out loud.
You have to articulate it.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's about literally having very clear expectations.
And that's where I give them a lot of grace too. If they're doing power will fill a vacuum. So if I'm not telling them exactly what to do and how to do it, then I can't be mad at them for them doing it, trying to just get it done and doing it their own way.
Where did that phrase come from?
What?
Power will fill a vacuum.
Oh, I don't know.
I've never heard that before. Really? I've never heard that before, but it's really articulate, and I like it.
And so, but it goes both ways. If I have, I'm going to be in Disney World for a week and 2 weeks. And so if there have been times where I've kind of just not been able to show up in the right way. And luckily I have people there who can see that, recognize that, and they will step in a positive leadership way.
Right.
It can absolutely go the opposite way.
Yeah.
So I know that I can step away from the place and have it be okay because I have trusted people who they're not doing my job, but they're doing the job of a manager.
Yep.
And communicating and managing things and keeping the place going. Without them, either I would have to do it all the time or someone else is going to step in and be like, it doesn't really matter. Your standards just go out the window if you're not communicating them.
Right, for sure. And I think, you used the word delegation earlier. It is a bit of that, right? It's literally being able to say, and I think the one thing that gets missed in the idea of delegation is we consider delegation when we just say, here's a low level shit task, please do it. Yep. That's not exactly delegation. That's really more like dumping, right? You're just and that happens too. But delegation is truly when you say, hey, this is the goal, right? This is what has to be accomplished. I could tell you exactly how to do it. That's also not delegation. If you have an exact process, then again, you're assigning a task, which is fine. That's great. But when you say to them, this is the end goal, and I don't really care how you get there. It's yours to decide. And that's when that ownership, that actual sense of ownership becomes real.
Right.
And for motivated people, which who doesn't want to hire motivated people? I guess I'd be hard pressed to find who's the people we want that are who wants unmotivated workers. Right. I don't know. That's what they want. That's what they want. They want that challenge. They want to know, again, that they're unique, that their unique contributions are being seen, being appreciated, being noticed. The Growing Small Town show is recorded locally at the Growing Small Towns podcast studio located in Oaks, North Dakota. It's produced by Pheasant Canteen Studio in Aberdeen, South Dakota, with marketing support from Cassidy Johnston in Canyon City, Colorado. Our intro music was created and produced exclusively for Growing Small Towns by James Bergman, singer and songwriter from Fargo, North Dakota. Local and small, it's what we support and it's who we love. Get your community a shout out on the podcast. Call 701-203-3337 and share your small town success that you just don't feel is being celebrated quite enough, and let us shout you out. You can also share your biggest people challenge, and we'll dedicate an episode to offering ideas to help. Hell, you can basically tell us anything, and we'll do what we can to answer. We can't wait to hear from you.
Well, and unfortunately, you have to pay them for that too. And
heck yeah, you do.
And you have to pay them and in this day and age, we talk a lot about minimum wage and the what you can survive on and all that. If I were to pay my staff minimum wage, all of my problems would be gone. All of my financial
your
problems.
Financial woes, right?
until they're like, well, screw this. This was a great job because I was getting paid this much money plus about $2.50 to $3 an hour in tips, and I get to do what I want and I'm in charge of stuff. You turn that to now I'm only making $7.25. You're gonna have a rotating door of people, and training people is so freaking expensive.
It's extremely expensive. So a general thought about this is that people need to be paid enough where money isn't a constant thought.
Yeah.
That's basically it, which I know feels like, well, how the hell do you figure that out? You've got to know your market. You've got to actually kind of know what your competitors are doing.
Yep.
Having some sense of the market's really important. But outside of that, culture is what can absolutely make up the gap of what you can't pay people in extra salary. Yeah. Because you actually, for the people that just feel like, the businesses that feel like, well, I can't pay what people need to be happy here. I'm telling you that like money isn't all of it. It's really not. It's not what drives engagement. It's not one of the top 3 things people look for.
Right.
But they do need to be paid well enough that they're not constantly stressing about it. That's it. It's got to basically be like, how do we get finances and money off the table?
Yeah.
And I get that that's a hard thing in this market too, to kind of like figure out.
Yeah. I woke up the other morning kind of in a cold sweat being like, oh shit, do I need to lower my wages? Which I never said I wanted to do. So I would save about $7,000 a year if I took $1 off everyone's pay. Be $14,000 if I did $2 off. It moves the needle, not a ton, but what's your risk? Or the other way to say it, to flip that, is what you just said, is the culture that we're building and that we have built enough to, especially if you come into it with an honest, like, I'm not doing this so I can buy myself a yacht. It's so that the business can survive.
Right.
So if given the choice between the two of those, and in this climate, who knows what's gonna happen, right? So I don't know. It's tough to. I have a hard time gamifying people's lives. I take payroll very, very seriously. I will always put in to cover it if we need to. Like, checks are not late. That is the most integral thing you can do, especially if I'm not there working alongside the shoulder to shoulder, that I'm trusting them to take care of the place. I need to pay them.
Right.
That is it. It's
a full stop.
Unmovable.
Yep. Non-negotiable. And thank you for being that kind of business owner. Because I just think.
Yeah. I've just heard other stuff, and I don't know how people live that. I don't know how you go to sleep at night knowing that the people that are depending on your paycheck are now out. I
have this yucky feeling, Brodie, that there's all shades of
I'm sure.
super POS people.
I've heard stuff about.
I hate that that's likely true. But
yeah, and in coffee shops, I've heard a lot of people will post on Reddit or Facebook like, is it true that managers get tips? It's like, no, it's not. So there's managers, there's owners taking these people's tips. And it's like, what? Again, yeah. How do you sleep at night?
I always hope for a karmic, reverberation of sorts. Like, it's got to come back around. But I think we know, like, in truth, it doesn't always.
No.
Sometimes super shitty people are successful. And that is a hard reality for me, BTW. Like, I really do have a hard time just being like, okay, so all these important things that we're talking about, like humanity, how we treat people, giving them encouragement, giving them guardrails, being clear, being kind, being all these things. People can totally throw that out the door and still have yachts.
Yeah.
Damn. That's frustrating, right? But I think, again, we're talking about the impact that local employers have on a community.
Right.
The people that run their businesses like that are not furthering their community as a way, like, because if that's what the employees are treated like, that means they're taking that to the streets.
Yeah, you're right. So
it's just a huge impact.
It's a little bit Sesame Street, right? Like, these are the people in your neighborhood. And so especially as a business owner, though, I think it's important. And everyone has their own vision for how they want to run their business. But I never wanted it to be Brodie's coffee shop. I don't need to be the face of the business. I'd rather there be multiple faces. And so we have people, everyone knows Tiffany, who's been there since day one, has opened every single day. And she doesn't always do things exactly the right way, but people come in to see her. And so it's not a hill I'm going to die on.
100%.
And then,
yep.
Yeah. And then you got Kayan and Emily who are out there doing TikToks.
Shout out to the markets team.
I mean,
I love it.
Everyone has their little niche, but I like to think that they bring that into the community. That's not something that we've talked about as a team, but it's an interesting thought.
It is. I think it's an important thought because there's kind of two parts of this. You actually just touched on it when I was listening to you talk about the TikToks and like the reels and the stuff that your team is doing. It is so easy to dismiss that as unimportant, silly. Like that's just all what the young bucks want to do. Like this is the crap that I've heard. And the reason it's important is because it personifies the experience of your coffee shop in kind of a more distributed way, right? And people that really delight in that, they will actually want to come and meet that staff. Like you said,
people want to buy things from people they know,
and that they find enjoyable. Like it's a like thing too. They have to be like, oh my gosh, like I just really want to hang out with that person.
Yeah,
and that's why who you are as a human matters in the ownership of this business too, because you present yourself in a way. And again, you're not probably everybody's cup of tea. None of us are. None of us are, no. Right? But you literally do find the people then by truly being who you are. That they're like, I just want to hang out with that guy.
Right.
And they're going to want to come to your coffee shop. So that's one thing. The second thing, though, is you mentioned Tiffany. People know Tiffany. Mm-hmm. So when Tiffany goes to Kessler's or Tiffany goes to Target, your community interacts with her. And because she's the kind of person that vibe checks with you, that's probably what she's carrying out into the community.
You're right, because you don't want to do the whole middle school field trip. You are representing Holgate Middle School today, so we all need to be on our best behavior. Plus, for 16 to 19-year-olds, it's really tough. I think that's too much for me to say, you work here part-time, but by the way, you are an agent of the market when you go out into your regular life. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Be careful when you're going out at night and hanging out with your friends and partying because you represent the market.
However, to what you said, or to your point, I think it takes the sort of the pressure off some of that.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe that you all are good people, and I've banked on that enough to where I will pay you to come here. And so, yeah, you're right. It's the spillover, I think, is unintended positive consequence.
I know, and it's something that can be shifted.
Yeah.
And that's something that I just don't think enough economic development people are talking about. Like we all want people to move back to our communities.
Yeah.
Well, then let's help our businesses create stronger environments, positive, healthy working environments. And so for me, I don't again, with what you offer for benefits, that's really dicey and hard right now too. But what you can do for flex work, if remote work's a possibility, right? If you offer popcorn in the break room at 4 p.m. on Thursdays, I don't necessarily care about that. It's about you saying what your environment is and then actually walking that out every single day, hiring to it, firing to it, coaching to it, and holding to it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I just don't think enough, especially small kind of locally owned businesses, it's kind of just we get who we get and we don't throw a fit.
Right.
And but you're shaping people.
Right.
You're shaping people.
Right. You feel like you're putting out fires though too, especially as the small kids on the block. All you're doing is putting out fires, which is why I haven't done a value statement because I haven't had the damn time.
Yep.
Those ethereal things are on the back burner until I know that I can make payroll and that we have enough materials for them to do their jobs.
Right.
And so
so sometimes it's good to take a moment, think about these kinds of things, right? And say, okay, if I could take however much time and get out of in the day-to-day of the business and start to work on it, focus on some of those things because they are foundational.
Yeah.
And I know there's the list of that stuff is so freaking long because you're just I'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
But at a minimum, I think even your approach, it's more organic and it's maybe not as defined. But Brodie, you absolutely have values at the market. You do. You just haven't clearly articulated what they are.
Yes.
I think the process of actually doing that won't be that difficult for you.
No, I don't think it will either. And I think because I have the buy-in of these staff, it won't be a hard pivot to say like, okay, this is who we are. No one's going to be like, no, we're not.
Yeah.
Like
Well, in fact, just sit down, serve them some beers one
Right.
night, sit down and say, let's come up with three statements that define who we are. And they'll help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because what's
right.
cool about this for you is that you're not trying to change the culture. You're just trying to you're trying to crystallize it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and for people that want to change it, it's a little more arduous. But
yes. I think when you're changing things within your business as much as you can to work with people's muscle memory.
Yeah.
Right? Like when this time last year, we sat down and I'm like, okay, how do you make a sandwich? Well, how do you make a sandwich? And realize it's totally different. Well, can we find a middle ground where you don't have to reset your own muscle memory to do it? So can you set a standard to the way that it's being done now or slightly different? And then you just have that standard. One thing I wanted to say before I forgot it, with your value statement, your mission statement, and you have those on paper, it also gives both of you something else to point back to. And so it's not me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
not writing your ass. You said you would do these things and you're not. So I'm just following up.
That's exactly, and it puts those parameters around the behavioral stuff that always feels more personal.
Yeah.
And it's literally, we live in the Midwest, you and me, right? Here we are. You're in South Dakota, I'm in North Dakota. Our desire to like engage in difficult conversations, it's close to zero.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, we got to have a conversation.
Well, she's trying real hard. So that's that's a little different, but it'll be okay.
Oh, I love it. I seriously, though, I want to just say, like, if you take a little bit of time, you can have these conversations in a way that in no way creates resentment or frustration. It's like a loving and kind and generous way to do it. You can.
Well, and they don't at 18, 19, 22, they don't understand what it's like to run a business. So they don't know what your problems are either.
Of course not.
In this most recent staff meeting, I sat down and said, okay, here's how a labor percentage works.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's where we are now, and here's where we need to go. And I need you all to know this. So again, I'm not buying a yacht with this. This is so that we can keep going. Mm-hmm. So when like the schedule is going to stay the way it is, but here's why, right?
Yeah.
Like pulling back a little with a couple of my managers, I said, okay, here's our profit and loss statement from this year and from last year. I know it all looks like Latin, but I'm going to teach you how to read some of this so you can see and help me get to where we need to go. Right. I'm not just hounding you guys on write down what you threw away. Like I actually need to know what our waste was this month so that I can see where the problem is.
But what a cool way to engage people, especially kids, younger people.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't call them kids, especially at that time in their lives too. Like I just think you're doing a great job. That's what I really think. Even though I know sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm never going to figure this out, and there's so much uncertainty, especially like we were just talking earlier, like food prices, things that you can't control, like the actual cost of your inputs. You're going to see changes in that this year, and you know that.
Yeah.
But the things that you can control and the things that I want all the business owners that are listening to us talk about this, what I hope more than anything that they take away from it is just that choose one value that is really, really important to you and decide to crystallize it and sit down with your staff and talk about it. Talk about what hitting that looks like, what not hitting that looks like, and just start there.
Yep.
Because it really does. Like we're growing. You guys are shaping the humans that do life in our communities. Therefore, you're shaping our communities. And I just don't think enough people are. A may be thinking about it. So that's the first step. Let's just acknowledge that. And then B, taking one small step towards a healthier culture or a culture that feels more aligned with who you want to be.
If I could just have a CFO and I could just manage these people, I'd be so much happier. Like that.
I get that.
I don't mind managing people at all. Well, they're just people, and maybe that's just my education or my upbringing. Like I have a master's in social work, so the messy people stuff.
Yeah, you love it. That does set you apart.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all, and so maybe that's where some of the skills or what I don't think are skills that you're telling me are.
They are totally skills, sir.
So but yeah, you get bogged down in the day-to-day of what needs to be done, but they're just people and they just want to do a good job. And the more vulnerable you are with them of either I can't set the tone today, I need your help to do that.
That's so brave, BTW. I didn't say that when you said it and I felt it, right? It's brave. And that is vulnerability. And that's really what people crave from their leaders.
Yeah.
That's actually what people crave. And I just don't think, again, there's so many things that are countercultural a bit to where we live. And it's very much like, well, men don't have feelings. Men have all the feelings. And the more repressed they are, the harder and scarier it actually is for us to work through stuff. So I think to just be able to own that with people, it's really powerful.
It can be alarming when you see your boss get emotional because they're the ones running the thing, right? They're the owner of it. I'm sure they all have me on some kind of pedestal of different heights.
Yeah, right.
And well, maybe for some I'm not on a pedestal at all, but I try to be vulnerable to say I'm just figuring this out. Okay, along with you guys. And so I appreciate your help in helping me do that. But I don't have all the answers right now, and I don't know. Or there's been times where I've had to circle back and be like, I was not at my best yesterday. And
that's super important.
Really apologize for that. And that's not how I want to show up. And it was yesterday. And here's why that is. And, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's just you're treat everybody like adults. We don't need to,
and just like people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
people.
what you're talking about, right? And I think that's that's the kind of the bow on this whole conversation is that employers have such a unique opportunity to really hold space for, like, we're defying gravity here. That whole bit was just ridiculous. Okay, but like really you create a container, right? Where these people come to you and you're shaping their view of themselves. And this is kind of deep psychological stuff, but I don't care. Like, this is what we're talking about. You reinforce the best of themselves, and you're giving them a clear way to practice being human, right? And you've got guardrails around that. If more of us just allowed for that, I mean, that's what community is. Yeah. Giving people the space to be themselves and to be human so if I could like wave a wand and say, I wish every small business owner had a social work background, I think about how much better off we'd be just mentally and holistically. Yeah. Right? Because of course it's about paying the bills. You're running a business, right? You have to get to that point. I get all of that. And you're shaping humans in the process.
Like I said, I take the human part of it very seriously.
I know you do.
And I think probably because it's where I feel most comfortable. I don't feel comfortable in the reading a profit and loss statement, but I know I can take care of these people. And so that's what I don't, not at the sake of other things, but I do feel pretty comfortable in this. This is the vision. This is what we're trying to do. And if you want to come along, then great.
Well, and I really want to urge everybody running, especially kind of customer-facing businesses, that when you take that approach, this like I am here to take care of them, lead them well, let them be their messy selves. Your employees will show up that way for your customers, and that, again, you want to talk about like the ripple effect out of just good humans taking care of other humans. Yeah. It's a really big deal.
Well, and we all want to be better, right? Like
totally.
we're not dead yet. And so most people want to be better. And when you can identify skills in people that need a little bit of polish, most of them know that already. Like I've had people who are in managerial roles and they need to put out a bunch of information, but she will say, I know I sound like a bitch.
I love that. That's such good awareness.
And so she will send me what she wants to send out, beforehand. And sometimes I'll tweak it and sometimes not, but she knows that she wants to work on that. Yeah. And so this is a safe place to be able to do that.
That's a huge deal too. Yeah. Because if you're vulnerable enough to say, hey, like this is something I'm kind of struggling with, then they know that they can come to you. That safety, that psychological safety. Oh my goodness. I don't even know. I mean, really, like that should be what we try to create in the environments that we're responsible for, right. I think, right? Like at home, of course, I want to create psychological safety where like my kids can say anything to me and they know that I've got them. Yep. Right? But that's the same role that we get to play for employees. Yeah. And I've heard all sorts of answers to some of this stuff where people will be like, well, but they're only part-time and they don't really care that much. And I'm just like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of their experience that they always look back on with just a ton of fondness.
Everyone remembers their first jobs.
Yeah,
you know?
and especially the ones where they were treated really well. You
or
remember?
treated really
Exactly. You have such a it's such an honor, I think, and a cool. It's not a burden, but it is a responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's an honor. You know, you're shaping humans.
Yeah.
How freaking cool.
It's fun. I do feel lucky to be able to do that, and it is my favorite part of the job. The customers are great, and I love my customers, but I really like interacting with my staff, and I like working on projects with them, and I like watching them grow. And when you can give, a couple people another step up opportunity. I took one of my staff to a coffee expo. It was my first coffee expo, but it was my first time bringing a staff as well. I just paid for her out of my dime to go stay at a hotel, and she brought her boyfriend, and I said, I'll just pick you up on the way and we'll go. And she said so many times, like, thank you so much for bringing me. Like
That's really cool.
I didn't think it would be that big of a deal for her, and I just wanted another set of eyes, but she looked at it all very differently. And so it's to do those kind of, give them the opportunities where you can to step up or level up or take on this project. And now people are going to look to you for details as long as they can handle it and they know that you got their back if they fall,
right?
Then it takes work off your plate. That's for sure.
I want to thank you for driving up.
Absolutely.
Hanging out with me, sharing these, because these are innate to you, so they don't feel like gifts. These are very special Brodie Mueller gifts. And that's exactly the kind of person that I want to see running businesses like you've got. And I know it's been hard, and I know there's a lot of challenges, but you are an exceptional people leader.
Well,
and I knew it from the moment I met you. And it's just been so fun to watch. Again, to have 10 employees and only have lost like 2 that you had to like let go of.
Yeah, everyone else has been. There's been other.
Of course, you've had people that have moved on for other reasons or whatever.
Damn college kids decide they don't want to work at a coffee shop anymore and want to go do their degree.
Yeah, whatever. Lame. Yeah,
stupid.
So lame. It's impressive. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate everything you do.
We hope you loved this episode of the Growing Small Town Show. We encourage you to leave us messages at 701-203-3337. And be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at growingsmalltowns.org. In the meantime, keep doing what you can with what you have right where you are. Your community needs you.
Because we are growing small towns. We are growing small towns. We're right here living our best lives, as crazy as it sounds. But we are growing small towns. Growing small towns, we are growing small towns. We are growing small towns.